Good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what today is? It's Monday Morning Chats with Sack, and Sack is me. I hope that you guys had a great weekend. Well, you already know the Eagles won the NFC Championship, so we are going to the Super Bowl. So I'm excited about that, but I really, really love my new hoodie. So I hope that you guys had a great weekend, and I hope that you were able to do the things you really wanted to do. So I thought about what I wanted to talk about today, and I want to say it's two things. So lessons from the hospital, and lessons from Bible study. So these were really special topics for me because this was like I want to say this was like a difficult weekend for me. Besides, spending time with my friends. But this was a difficult time for me, just processing things about family members being sick and just trying to deal with that emotion. So that was a lot. But I got a chance to visit a family member. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been visiting a family member at a hospital. And when I went there, you just hearing about updates about the family member, what's going on, what's going to happen, what can eventually happen, what are the hesitations, and it just made me think. But I will say that this family member of mine has around-the-clock support, right? So when you're in the hospital, there's someone there visiting this person. When someone leaves, someone's coming. And as I'm walking through the hospital, I see people in their hospital rooms with no visitors at all. And it just makes me think, some people that are in the hospital, they may never get someone to visit them. Never. And, I see, this idea on social media about, hey, I don't need anybody. I'm good by myself. I don't need anybody. But when you're in the hospital or you are incapacitated or you're in something where you're unable to do things for yourself, you need people. And the hospital was that for me, right? And so I remember being in the hospital when I had my blood clot. I was there for 5 days. And I was in such excruciating pain. And if it wasn't for my mother, she told me the other day, she was like, I saved your life. I said, I know that. And it just made me think about what would have happened if I didn't have support by people coming to see. Like, my mom stayed in the hospital with me. Like, she would go home to change, come right back, called off for work. And that support was needed. And it's just so unfortunate that some people don't have that, right? Some people don't have that support. Some people are in the hospital for long periods of time, and there's no one there checking up on them. You have the doctors there. The doctors can tell you so many different things. One doctor coming in tell you one thing, another doctor coming in tell you another thing. But it's nothing like having people there, right? So it's nothing like having people that can be there for you, that can support you. The question is, are you open to receive it, right? Are you open to receive the help? And being in a hospital, it really put things in perspective for me, because there's people that's been in there for months. And it just made me think about, I eat healthy, but I'm like, can I do better, right? Can I do better? And then, being in a hospital, it just made me think, like, some people, they may never go home, right? This may be the place where they close their eyes and not see their family again. And it just made me really grateful for life. Like, just grateful. I can complain that I don't have a lesson prepared for my students, but I could wake up and I could open my eyes. And that's just like, that's the blessing in itself. I don't have any health problems. I'm very healthy. And I thank God for that every day, every single day. But being in the hospital, it really taught me to really be appreciative of life. And my pastor, one of the pastors at my church, I was listening to the service as I was driving to Philadelphia yesterday. And the sermon was about unscripted dreams. And he talked about Pastor Larry Page at Zion in Maryland. He talked about how we may have these ideas of what we want our life to look like, right? So you have this idea, maybe you want to buy a house by 30, maybe you want to have kids by 30, maybe you want to have a husband or a wife or whatever. You have these dreams, and it's these ideas that I need to get this by this time frame, and if not, then God forgot about me. But the reason why he labeled it unscripted, because let your life go the way God has planned. We don't know the plans for us. We just know that the plans are good for us, right? And it just really made me think about the things I said I wanted. And I'm like, I don't have them yet, but I know they're on the way. But being in a hospital, it just made me think like, yeah, I want X, Y, and Z. Like, I actually want a new house. And I was like, you know what? But I have a house now. And I'm fine with it, right? I'm fine with it right now. I want this God. I want that God. But being in a hospital, it really changed my perspective on things. Like, hey, I'm going to get it. It just may not be right now. And that right now portion, when you're waiting, is hard, right? It's super hard. And so it just really made me think about those things. But what I did was, when I left the hospital, as I was driving, I stopped. And I just prayed for everybody in the hospital. And I was like, God, my prayer goes to everyone there. I know that you have healing power. And I know that you can heal everybody there. And my prayer is that I pray that they go home. And I also said, God, there's people there that don't have visitors. I pray that you cover them a little bit more. I hope that you wrap your arms around them a little more, because they need it, right? They need it. And I pray for those that are receiving visitors, but maybe they're nervous. They're not sure about the outcome. And I hope that you give them comfort, right? And I hope that, I told my aunt this about my family member. She's like, how do you feel? I said, I'm nervous. I'm scared. And I said, but you know what? This person is everything to me. And I feel like majority of this person's life, she fought because of us, my family. And I told my aunt, I said, this time I want her to fight for herself, whatever that may look like. And I'm a believer. And I was like, at least I know that whatever decision that she makes, and let's say, God forbid, it doesn't turn out how we all wanted to, I know where this person will go, right? And that's hard to say. And that's what got me emotional. Like, wow, I don't want to think like that, but I'm realistic. And I was like, I want this person to make the decision that's best for them. I'm going to cry. I'm going to be hurt. Yeah, of course. But I want this person to make the best decision for themselves. Lessons from Bible study. So I didn't facilitate this time. I facilitate next week. And so we talked about love, right? What does love mean? And my co-facilitator was telling us she learned something in her therapy sessions, because we are big advocates of therapy. And one of the things that she said was, her therapist told her to write a love letter to herself. And she could mail it to herself whenever, right? She could mail it to herself tomorrow. But during this Bible study, we had to write down 12 things that we love about ourselves, right? Could list them in any type of order. Me, when I got the assignment, I was so stuck on trying to organize it. What's the priority? And I realized, like, hey, they're all equal, right? And that was the thing that caught me out. Like, okay, what do I love about myself? I was like, I love that I'm able to forgive. I love that I'm able to love. I love how God loves me in spite of my flaws. I love how God loves me in spite of my shortcomings. And then just the list continued. Like, I had 12. And I was like, you need us to write more? And she was like, no. And the thing that I've learned is some people struggle with that, right? Some people struggle with loving who they are. I'm able to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I love the woman that I am. And I love the woman that I'm becoming. It took a long time for me to get here. I was hanging out with one of my girlfriends, and we've been friends. She's actually on here. We've been friends since the 6th grade. And she knows me. And she met up with, she knows a girl that I went to college with who happens to be my mentee. And, you know, they were talking to each other like, yeah, you know, Sakina. And the girl's like, yeah, Sakina is my mentee, my mentor. Like, she's really nice. And, you know, they were chit-chatting. And my girlfriend was like, you don't know the Sakina that I know. Like, this girl was dragging people, right? And when I hear those things, I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for the change, because when you make a change in your life, it's a decision, right? And I tell my co-facilitator of Bible study, I was like, never in a million years I thought I would be facilitating a Bible study and giving people God's word. Like, never. I never thought that would happen. I didn't even think I was qualified, but God does make the unqualified qualified. And so when I took that charge, I did everything I can do. Like, never thought in a million years that I'd know how to recite scriptures, but now I do. When we talked about this idea of love, I said, you know, can I share something? And the one thing I told the young ladies that was on the that attended the Bible study, I was like, you know, one thing about love, I said, you gotta love yourself. I said, I think that's the most important thing, like, to really love yourself so you can love others. You know, people talk about their shortcomings and how they struggle with loving themselves, right? Because everybody go through things. And I was like, you got to really love yourself. Love the person who you are, because how can you show love to others if you struggle with giving it to yourself? So the way I treat people, I demonstrate that on myself first. So if I'm kind and I'm giving and I'm caring, please know I do that for myself. I practice all the love languages on myself on a consistent basis. So when I'm giving it to someone else, it's not because I'm lacking. It's because I'm full. But I have boundaries where everyone doesn't have access to that. Everyone doesn't have access. Everyone will get a different Sakina, right? Depending on how you treat me. But I've learned those things. And, you know, we just talked about love. And I also shared about, you know, the first example that you learn from love is from your household. And I said, I hope and pray that if you had setbacks as a child, or even if there's something that you struggle with, because we all have struggled through some type of childhood trauma, that you're able to look back at your parents and forgive them, because they did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And sometimes some of our parents didn't have a lot of tools in their toolbox. Sometimes they ain't had nothing, and they just try to figure it out. And I was like, I just hope that you forgive them, right? I just hope that you forgive them, because that's where it all starts. Because somebody in our group has difficulties with their mother, and I was like, I hope that you forgive. And forgiveness is something that you're not going to do overnight. You have to make a conscious decision and say, I'm going to forgive. And sometimes it hurts. And that's a part of the healing. Sometimes it hurts. Like, why should I forgive this person for all the things they have done? But it's a choice, right? And so when we talked about childhood trauma, and we talked about, like, love and what does that mean, I said, I love unconditionally. I don't love you based on the things that you could do for me. I love you for who you are. And that's something that I've learned. Like, I love you for who you are. You don't have to do certain things for me to love you. I love you for who you are. And during Bible study, I said, you know, sometimes people have it misconstrued. I said, if they read the Bible, they'll see this. But you can love somebody unconditionally. You could love people like God loves people. But it doesn't mean that you had to accept any nonsense, right? So I tell people, like, I can love you. I can still want the best for you, and I love you for who you are. But I'm not going to tolerate nonsense. I tell my siblings that. I tell my parents that. I tell anybody. Like, yeah, we're not going to do this, right? We're not going to do X, Y, and Z, because I'm not going to tolerate that. That's unconditional love. And I look back when we were talking about unconditional love and what that means. I said, I pray that you love people in spite of their flaws, because everybody has shortcomings. Everybody. And it's funny because when I look on, you know, I'm not married yet, and I pray for a husband. I pray for him now, even though he's not here yet. And the one thing that I say in my prayers is that when I pray for a husband, I'm like, God, I pray that he knows that he's amazing in spite of his flaws. And I say some other things, like I pray that You help him become the man that he needs to be for himself, not for his family, not for his future wife, but I pray that you make him the man that he needs to be for himself, right? I hope that he's able to accept his flaws and acknowledge them and figure out how to be a better person for himself. And I look back over my life and try to figure out, when did I really practice unconditional love, right? Because you love how to love honestly through people, right? And sometimes it starts in the household. So I thought about it. I was like, when did I learn this idea of unconditional love, right? We talked about it in Bible study last week. My pastor a few years ago talked about it. And I was like, okay, what's this unconditional love thing? Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And I will say, as my parents get older, you know, they feel guilty about some things, right? About things they wish they could have done for me and my brothers as a child. And I told them, I said, I forgive you. And I was like, I don't care the things you didn't do. Let me tell you the things that you have done that I appreciated. Because the things you haven't done, it made me who I am today, right? So I thought about, like, when did I really display that I'm able to show unconditional love? So I remember my dad, you know, we will always have conversation about, you know, him growing up. And when you learn how your parents grew up, that will allow you to give them grace. And so he's talking to me about his childhood, you know, my grandfather, just all these things. And it really made me look at him in a different lens. Like, oh, I see why you do this. I see why. Okay, I got it. There's grace, there's grace, there's grace. So I was like, when did I start to show that I'm able to give unconditional love? And my dad told me, he reminded me this. In my early childhood, my dad didn't have a lot of money. He was able to give us his time. And I remember one day, my dad wasn't working. He just, in his mind, he thought he was a bum. He didn't have much. And I remember he tried to hide from me. So I was living in Philadelphia at the time. My aunt took me to New Jersey to go see my dad. And we were driving around. We saw him. I think he was coming home from somewhere. And he did not want to see me because he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed because he didn't have much. But I caught him, right? I said, Daddy. Hey, Dad. I think I was 5 or 6. Hey, Dad, I love you. Gave him a hug. What I didn't know is that was everything to him. That was everything. And he shared it with me when I got older. And he was like, I remember when I was a bum and you still love me. You never judged me. And I said, Dad, that's because I love you. I love you. Not what you have. Not what you can do for us, but I love you. And when you're a child, you're innocent, right? You don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know those things. But I share this with friends. I'm like, if I call you my friend, I love you for who you are. If I'm in a relationship with someone, I'll tell you that I love you. And I don't say that. I don't just say I love you just because it sounds good. If I love you, that's because I love who you are. When it came to my dad, when he told me that, you love me even when I didn't have not much. I said, you're my dad. I love you for life. That's it. And it just made me think about, this whole idea of love and forgiveness, the things we talked about in Bible study. And it just brings things full circle about breaking generational curses. And I told my brother this. I said, it's hard when you're a generational curse breaker because there's no blueprint for you, right? There's no layout on how to do this, how to do that, because the people before you, your ancestors, your family members before you didn't do it. So you're figuring out how to do it on your own. You're figuring out these things. And I told my grandfather the other day that there's some people in the family that didn't teach me how to do X, Y, and Z. I said I had to figure it out. And I'm the family member where I like to bring people together. And sometimes it's stressful, right? It's stressful because you have some family members that don't see the full picture of it. And when we have family functions, I'm spending like $600 on food, just making sure everybody's okay. And although I would want people to contribute, I realized like, this is my charge. And I didn't ask for it. God just told me, you're going to do this, sis. And somehow he finds a way. And when my cousins come there, my family members that come there, you know, some of them feel guilt because they're unable to contribute. And I'm like, I love you. You here. I told some family members I had a holiday party last month. Oh, I don't really have it. I'm not sure if I could bring anything. I said, just bring yourself. I love you. That's what I love. And so I just pray that when you're telling somebody that you love them, mean it, right? And when you tell somebody that you love them without conditions. Don't love somebody based on what they can do for you. Love someone for who they are. My aunt shared this with me. She's been married for over 30 years. And I said, what's the secret, right? That's what I desire. What's the secret? How do you stay married for that long? And she told me that when you love somebody, when you're in a marriage, it's a selfless thing. It's not about what they can do for you, but it's more so what you're willing to give to them. And when I looked at it like that, it makes it easy for me to love people. It makes it easy for me to try to gather the family together, even though it's tough. And sometimes I'm pulling teeth, and sometimes I want to punch some of my family members in the throat. Don't get me wrong, I'm saved, but I still got hands, right? And so it's one of those things where I'm like, you know what, I struggle with this, but I know that I love them, and it's a bigger purpose in me, because God called me to be this generational curse breaker, and I didn't ask for this, but this is what comes with the charge. And so I just pray that whoever's listening to this is that when you love somebody, you love them. You love them. When you tell somebody you love them, what that means is that you love them in spite of their flaws. You love them in spite of their shortcomings. I had a family that was on drugs and said, I didn't know if you would love me any less. I said, I love you for who you are. I don't care if you're on drugs. I don't care about that. By me loving you, I love you for you. And by me telling you that I love you, I'm willing to help you. Because when you love somebody, it's not so much what they can do for you, but what can you do for them? And I said, this is what I can do for you. I can get you help if you want it. I can take you to the meetings. I can sit there with you. And when I offered that, I remember my family member saying, well, what about your job? I said, I don't give a fuck about my job. You are more important. I can get a check. Let's be clear. I can get a check. But I said, you so much more important. But I love you. And so I just really pray that when you say those words, those three-letter words that I love you, don't love with conditions. And I hope that the lessons from the hospital teach you how to appreciate life and to appreciate what you have, right? Instead about, complaining about the things that you don't have, because that's easy to do. It's easy to complain about the things that we don't have. Just know that if you pray for it, you're going to get it. And the lessons from Bible study that I hope that when you love intentionally, you love unconditionally, you love with no limits. To me, that's what love is. It is Monday, so I like to shout out to all the dope men out there. You are amazing. You are great. And to all the black men, you deserve to grow old. You really deserve to grow old. Just hearing about the killing, the young man that was killed in Memphis by those police officers, it breaks my heart, because I have a father, I have uncles, I have brothers, I have best friends that are males, and that could have been them. So I pray for black men. You deserve to grow old. You deserve to live your life without fear or people fearing you. You deserve that. To everybody else, including men too, I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you have an amazing day. And I just hope that you just never forget how amazing you are. And to cherish your life. Because you could be gone tomorrow. So really cherish your life. Really, really cherish it. Cherish it. That's all I have. I'm going to post this video on not this on Instagram right now, but I'm going to post this on YouTube, and I hope that you're able to watch it again anytime you need a reminder of what love is, and being blessed to just wake up and be blessed with the things that you have. Take care, guys.